Hello, Racheli, your mortgage advisor here with Fairway. I have Jay Granieri with Sotheby's. He's one of the agents that we work with. And what we wanted to bring you today is something new that we would like to do, because when you go buy a home or sell a home, there are some things that you need to know, you need to be aware of. And
it's a complicated process.
it is.
Yeah, and it's becoming more complicated.
Because when you do the inspection and some things are coming up,
Yeah.
what is it that you're going to face as a seller if you're selling the house, if you're buying the house, and how do you negotiate those? And then if you're buying the house, how do you want your house to look like?
Right.
And things that are the trends.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. So if you're from the buying side, I think the market that it shifted from sort of the pre-COVID to COVID era to today, things were very fast and furious. And so you were just lucky enough to be in the front of the line.
Yes.
And you didn't care how the house looked. You didn't care what about the roof.
Removed every
condition.
contingencies.
Yeah. And it was, it was a good time to be a real estate agent. But what it struck out was the attention to detail. And so I think that the market today is a lot different when you're working with people, because we're back to kind of really paying attention to the things that really do matter. When you sell a house, there's going to be functionally things that are going to need to be improved upon that are going to be the burden of the buyer. And so those things should be negotiated now into the deal, so that it takes some of that burden off of them, because buying a home is a great asset, but it's also being expensive, burden as well too.
And we're going to bring to you, we're going to go with inspectors, seawalls, maybe piping. We're going to go with plumbers.
The everyday things that add invested value to a home's appreciation, and even some, really, I call it visible value. It's no mystery why a home sells more that's staged or presented well than not, right? If it has current colors and current design, that home is going to look much more in current status and yield a better return than a home that's not.
Yeah. And if you want to do that particular thing, that's what we offer over here, which is the renovation loan.
Yes.
That you encompass in one loan whatever you buy the house and the renovation for the house.
Which is amazing. I mean, with the new processes that are happening right now within our industry, and the buyers enduring a little bit more of the burden of price, those are the things that mortgage companies like Fairway are doing to take that burden off of the buyer. Listen, at the end of the day, everything's being stretched.
Yes.
And so to have the ability to buy a home in today's market that maybe has some quirks to it, but having that being offset by a program that you provide, I mean, that's lights out.
A simple example: if you don't have hurricane windows or shutters, your insurance is going to be out of reach almost.
Right.
But we can do that renovation loan plus some other things that you can do to improve the home, and then get the insurance. It's the expensive one, but then refinance it once the renovations are done.
Yes. And I know you're also talking about the home equity line of credits as well too, which now, shifting from a person trying to buy a home and having a plan that can help them offset some expenses to renovate. People that are just not ready to sell yet, having the ability to do a program that you were talking to me about, which is taking some equity out of their home and actually, putting some, paying off some debt, things that are burdening them, that makes their lifestyle a little bit more comfortable.
And if they need to buy and they haven't sold before, we have that program too, because as long as they get that liability of the current home, they can qualify for the new home.
Which is awesome, because, there really hasn't been anything like that before.
Right.
And I can tell you that, once again, when the market shifted and more people found that they needed to sell in order to buy, having an opportunity where you have a program that can basically provide them the funds to purchase and not have to put a contingency in place. The sale to buy contingency is almost the kiss of death.
Nobody wants to see or say that. It's almost like a curse word.
It's a curse word. We don't like to talk about it. Post occupancies and sell to buys are very difficult to negotiate. You have to be very savvy in understanding the details of those negotiations. But a program like that completely alleviates the stress of the process, which is a huge lifesaver.
It's amazing. And the other thing, sometimes we have those electrical panels. You can't even get insurance unless those are being replaced.
Right.
That's why we sometimes suggest,
Yes.
you suggest to sellers, hey, you have this panel, and as a selling agent, as a pro,
Yes.
you should know those things when you take the listing and tell the seller right from the get-go.
100%. I mean, a good agent out there, we make sure that anybody on my team, we do a pre-assessment of a property before we actually go to sell it. And in some cases, we might even recommend having, a licensed inspecting company come with us, and actually, for a few $100, you get a full detailed report. And that is invaluable. You know what needs to be repaired. And so you make the decisions right there that you might be able to pay for a $2,500 replacement of a panel, where a buyer might negotiate $10,000 for that. Right. So you kind of nip it in the bud in the beginning. And those are powerful tools and recommendations that we try to make to educate people on the selling process and also on the buying process as well too.
That's great. So right now there have been a lot of talk, a lot of changes with the NAR settlement, which basically says that now the buyer agent need to have some sort of an agreement with their buyers if they want to be paid.
Right.
So what would be your advice to a buyer that's looking to buy now? What should they look in an agent?
Right. So, not to go too deep into the situation, but the processes have changed a little bit. And one of those processes that's changed is the relationship between the buyer's agent and the buyer. And in some situations where there is not compensation being offered from a sale of a home to the buyer's agent, the buyer has to have a conversation with the buyer's agent about the compensation that they're due for the services that we render. Now, in the past, those conversations were always covered by the sellers, and we hope in the situation that it maintains that going forward. But if it doesn't, you need to know that unfortunately, your buyer's agents need to know how they're going to get paid. You know, and they're a very valuable service. And before, in the way it was worked before, you'd meet this agent. You jump in the car with them, you go see a bunch of houses, and it was just kind of known that they were being compensated by somebody different. Today's market, we need to make sure that we're demonstrating our value up front. And I said that's probably the biggest change that I see my coaching to the agents on my team about is, listen, it can't be just going from A to Z. We need to have a sit down. We need to talk about the value that we're offering and educate them on the process. I don't think a lot of buyers understand the full scope of the things that we do on the buyer side representation that really start from way before just finding a home and opening a door to all the resources and challenges that we see coming down the pipeline that we try to help avoid them. And then
the research.
And the research. I mean, the research is, there's, if you kind of break it into the systems that we handle from the beginning of the handshake to the end of the close, it's a combination of quarterbacking a lot of different resources and people in play to lessen the burden of stresses, because at the end of the day, behind the scenes, that buyer is planning their moving, getting things ready for their switching their lives around. We're supposed to be making that process very seamless and protecting probably their other biggest asset, which is their escrow deposits, making sure that they're staying in terms with the contract so that they don't lose money and lose time, right? And getting them to the place that they want to be, which is ultimately the home.
Right. And the one thing that here at Fairway we started doing is actually doing 2 pre-approvals. One where the usual way, where the buyer agent will be compensated by the seller, so they don't need this extra cash. However, if the buyer has to pay their buyer agent, we need to verify that they have those funds to do so. So that pre-approval is a little different because it includes those funds. And we need to see this agreement between them and their buyer agent. The transparency that you provide me and our transactions together is, it makes the process so much more secure in the beginning, which is really important. Also, too, people need to know, really, at the end of the day, they should start with you and then come to me. Because when, I have a lot of people that are very zealous about going out and purchasing a property, and the worst scenario that I could ever be in is I show a property to somebody that they love,
and I've got competing offers on the property, and my particular buyers are not prepared to make the right offer. And there's certain bits of information that I need to know that are only provided by you. And so, that's it's a like, once again, there is a process. So when people come to me, I try to educate them that you're really the beginning step before we go out and just, have fun looking at houses.
Right. Put the horse before the cart.
Yes.
So next time, thank you so much for listening. And next time, you're going to see us in the field.
I appreciate it.
And we'll see what we're going to do, what
Awesome.
we're up about. Thanks. Bye.